answers can I get from this one problem right here? 2. Why? Yeah. I have to use a plus and a minus, right? So one of them is going to be negative 2 plus 14 divided by 2. What's that equal to?
Negative 6.
Negative 6. Because I have negative 2 plus 14, that's 12. 12 divided by 2. Yep, 4. That should have been 4. Thank you. So what is 12 divided by 4? 3. That's how we got the positive 3. And then I have negative 2 minus 14 divided by 4. What is negative 16 divided by 4? What is it? So that's how we got our 2 answers. Ray, what's your question? Where did you make your mistake?
I didn't choose it.
You what? Oh, almost like that. Other questions from the warm-up? All right, so today's lesson is based off of the quadratic formula. For good measure, what is the quadratic formula, Winnet?
X equals negative b plus or minus the square root of negative b squared.
Stop. Correct her mistake.
Oh.
She was almost there. Listen carefully, George.
X equals negative b plus 7 the square root of b minus 4.
Stop. Third time. Denasia.
Alright, x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 1.
Right. Thank you. So we're going to use a little piece of the quadratic formula, and it's going to tell you some answers. The standards we're talking about today. First one, Brandy. All right. Second standard for today, Demetrius.
Students apply quadratic equations to physical problems, such as the motion of an object under the force of gravity.
Right, so when we talked about parabolas before, we talked about if you're on a roller coaster and you go click, 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 that quick pause, vertex, boom, that's the change in direction. We're going to talk about how that also applies to the discriminant, today's lesson. So 2 vocabulary words, quickly jot them down on the right side of your notebook. The discriminant and solutions to a quadratic function. On the worksheet that I handed out to you at the beginning of class before you started the warm-up, it has 2 of the slides that we're going to see, so you won't have to write down too much. I want you to actually staple or use a glue stick to put this in your notebook. This is going to be the 4th thing I check for the notebook check next time, which is probably going to be next week. The discriminant and solutions to a quadratic function. All right, quadratic equations have 2, 1, or no real solutions. So what you saw up there, there was always 2 numbers. But we're going to talk about today when you solve for the discriminant, there's only going to be 1 answer sometimes, there's going to be 2 answers sometimes, and then sometimes there's not going to be an answer because it's going to be impossible. So top part, Eric.
Quadratic equations can have 2, 1, or no real solutions. You can determine the number of solutions of a quadratic equation by evaluating the discriminant.
Next, Charles.
If the quadratic equation is in standard form, this discriminant is b squared minus 4ac.
Where do you see b squared minus 4ac in the quadratic formula? Where is it? Jordan. Where? In the root, in the radical, right. So this is the same expression that's underneath the square root. So all we're really going to be talking about today is b squared minus 4ac. This is at the top of the paper that I handed out to you, so you can either look at the board or you can look on your paper. Remember, it needs to be stapled or glued into your notebook by tomorrow, right after today's note. So let's look at the top row. So how is this related to a function? When you're talking about finding the roots, the x-intercepts, or the zeros of a function, you're saying the same thing. They're like cousins. Kind of like when we talked about, you can call it a coordinate, a point, or what else? You can call it a coordinate, a point, or what else? We're talking about or an ordered pair. Now the three names for this are x-intercepts, roots, or zeros of a function. All it means is how many times the parabola touches the x-axis. So when you solve for the discriminant and it has two answers, that means that parabola is going to cross the x-axis twice. When you solve the discriminant and it has one answer, that means it's going to touch the x-axis once. What is this point called? If it's the highest or lowest point on a parabola, raise your hand. It's the highest or lowest point, it's the minimum or the maximum on a parabola. McIver. The vertex. So that means if it's one intercept, it's the vertex of the parabola. It can be a minimum or a maximum. And sometimes the parabola won't even touch the x-axis, and that's when you're going to get no solution. Again, the discriminant is the b squared minus 4ac. When it's greater than 0, it'll have two solutions. So I want you to put a star right here. I won't show you on the paper, I'll show you on the board. So put a star right here next to this expression, inequality, that says b squared minus 4ac is greater than 0, so that when you see the discriminant's answer is a positive number, you know it's going to have two solutions. Now put a star here. When it equals 0, it's going to have one solution. And when it's a negative number, put a star here, it's going to have no solution. Go back to those stars when we're going over today's lesson, and especially right before the lesson, please. This is at the bottom of your paper. You just put a star next to everything that I said, and it's right here again. So it's also at the bottom. So when the discriminant has a positive answer, when the discriminant is positive, how many solutions does that parabola have? Everybody?
Two.
Okay, when the discriminant has a 0, when the discriminant is 0, how many solutions will the parabola have? One. And when the discriminant is negative, how many solutions does it have? All right, somebody raise your hand and tell me, what does it mean to be a solution to a quadratic function? What are these solutions? And I'm going to go back to this because this is a hint. Alexis.
The parabola crosses the x-axis.
Right, give me 3 names that we can call where the parabola crosses the x-axis. 3 names. All right, 1, Robert. X-intercept, that's 1. Give me another one. George. Can't be the y and the x. It's where it crosses the x-axis. So x-intercept. Charisma. Root. That's the second one. What is the third way to call a solution of a quadratic function? It rhymes with heroes. I heard it. What is it? Zeros of a... Okay, we have to know the 3 names. One name is what?
And root.
Okay, one person give me all 3. All 3 names that you call it when the parabola is crossing the x-axis. Because they may not say what are the zeros of the function. They may not say what are the roots. They might say what. What did I not say so far?
X-intercept.
Right. So x-intercept, give me the other 2 I've already said.
Root and 0.
That's half, that's like part of it. Zeros, what? Right, zeros of a function. Yes, Caleb? Question? Okay, give me the 3 names of where the parabola crosses the x-axis. Go.
Root, zero, function, and x-axis.
Right. X. Ah. Okay, in this quadratic equation, identify the A, B, and C. Renee.
A is 3, B is -2, and C is 2.
Thank you for taking the sign with the number. Now we're going to substitute 3, -2, and 2 into the discriminant. What's the discriminant? It's not the whole quadratic formula. It's just a little part. What is the discriminant? What are we plugging this A, B, and C into now, Lacey? B squared minus 4AC. Right. So if you look up here, we have B squared minus 4AC. We had a -2. Make sure you take the right 2. It was a -2 for B. So -2 squared minus 4 times 3 times 2. Mental math real quick. Tell me what it is. Raise your hand when you know it. -2 squared minus 4 times 3 times 2.